Alright guys, so this is my BA shredder that I'm going to build here. And the point of this video is just to show you how it works, or how it goes together. So I'm not really going to describe a ton. I've got a much longer format video for that. This is basically just a very high level view of building a BA shredder, what it takes, how it's done. So basically I clean all the parts. If you've had this thing, if you've purchased it and it's been sitting around for a while and it's got any like light surface rust, clean that off with a palm sander. That works great. I like to use this spray, welding spray. Basically makes these little weld BBs just roll right off and keeps everything looking nice. So here you can see I'm tacking it together. Alternate your tacks. Don't just start at one side and move across the plate. Spread the heat around. That way you're not heating up the plates, because you don't want to warp or flex the plates. At this point you just flip it over and go ahead and clamp her down. Once again, using the anti-spatter spray. I'm not wiping it off, I'm just kind of spreading it around. And then once again I just tack it up. Now tack the whole thing before you weld anything completely solid. Because if you mess something up, you put something on backwards, which is pretty hard to do, but this is gonna ensure that you don't do anything wrong, and if you do, it's easy to change. So I hit this with some anti-spatter spray. Now to square this up, you just push the two base plates up against something straight. That's all you gotta do. So I'm just putting a straight edge there and some dowels to hold it in place. I press it up against. I do have a nice welding table here. Plans for this are available at BECK'S but if you don't have a welding table, you can just buy a piece of plywood. And yeah, be careful when you're welding, because you could catch it on fire, but you just need something to clamp to, or just something to hold it up against. So I'm just holding it to get up against this drywall square. So tack it, and then you're good to go there. Now load up one of your shoulder bolts with some washers, and then that will hold that nut in place. Sorry, I didn't realize this one was out of view, but the next one you'll be able to see a lot easier. So I load up that shoulder bolt, I put the nut on there, and you weld it just enough to keep the nut from spinning. The nut being on the opposite side of the plate gives it strength. All you're doing is keeping it from spinning. Now you're going to use the adjustable handle and do the exact same thing. Stack some washers, put a nut on the other side, and go ahead and put weld that nut. Now that nut's a 1/2-13. The other two are 3/8-16. So now when you tack this in place, those welds are going to cause your pivot brackets to be held away from the face. So we just grind those flush. Now I'll get the shims out of the pack of shims, and that will give you the correct spacing for these brackets. And you should be able to completely bottom out the shoulder bolt, and it will still move just fine. That's why those spacers are a very, very specific thickness spacer. So you also use a spacer in between the adjustable handle, and that will keep everything parallel. So now that you've got all that, you're going to set this on top. Don't worry, I bring you around here. So now just tack that in place. Those bolts are going to hold everything square for you while you tack stuff in place. And make these tacks like pretty hefty, right? You don't want it falling apart when you're testing it out and stuff. So there it is. It's that easy, guys. That is how easy it is to weld up a BA shredder frame. This is like ridiculously easy. So this is a tracking mechanism. This is just a handle, right? You could, scribe some lines with like a calipers, but frankly, you can eyeball it or you can tape measure it. It's not critical. I'm just lining it up a little bit, and I hit it with some tacks just to kind of hold it on there. Now I flip it over, and I give it a little bit extra tack here. I guess this would be considered a weld. I'm going to go back and TIG weld this entire assembly. But I use the MIG just to kind of hold things together prematurely. So now I'm just, I do kind of like a sub-assembly of this tracking, multi-axis tracking, just to hold that bracket while I'm welding it. That's the only purpose I've kind of put this together. I'm going to have to take it back off here in a bit because I don't have a spacer the shim underneath the primary axis. So now I'm just welding up the handles. So I start off with the 1/2 and you just clamp it to keep it straight and make sure it didn't lift. It didn't, so now I tack it again. Like I said, I'm gonna TIG weld that from the other side. I'm just tacking everything in place because I want to test fit and make sure everything is good before we weld it complete. So that's the 1/13. So now I'm going to pull this off and grab another one of those shims. I'm going to put this underneath the primary axis. So I put the shoulder bolt through and I put the shim underneath. Now to get it to line up with the shoulder bolt, I just hold it upside down and shake it while I screw it in, and that lines it up. That's the way to do. That's the way to go. Now, yes, you have a spring washer on the top of that primary axis, and that gives it resistance, but you will completely bottom out that shoulder bolt. That allows it to rotate. So there we go. Bolt this on, some washers, lock washers. All right, so that pretty much wraps up most of the main fabrication. The only thing left to do now is countersink the holes on your tool rest and your D plate. Now both the tool rest and the D plate come with holes already on location. You just have to countersink them, which isn't too hard. You don't have to use a drill press. I've done a lot of countersinking with just a hand drill. It'll work just fine. So, yeah. So now I'm countersinking the D plate. By the way, I love these clamps. If you don't have clamps in your drill press, it's a great idea. Keep things from spinning around and hitting you in the hands and that kind of stuff. So I just recently got these and I'm a big fan. So anyways, I'm just about done here. I always check to make sure the head's actually lower, and then you install the work rest. Just these 2 screws and the spacers. There's an extra set of holes there. That way when you go horizontal, you can realign things. So once again, just tacking this stuff in here. After I get everything tacked, I go through and finish weld everything. So these are just the threaded bolts or threaded nuts that you weld on for the adjustable handles. So one way that makes putting these adjustable handles in a lot easier is just get a screwdriver. Some of these have flatheads, some of them have Allens, but yeah, pull out and just use a screwdriver. That's a lot faster. So now just got to attach the D plate. And I don't actually have any wheels in stock right now, so I'm not going to show putting the wheels on. And I'm actually don't have any platens right now. I'll be getting some more of those in stock tomorrow. So it's the only thing that we're not going to put on here is the wheels and the platen. But those holes that I countersunk on the D plate, that's what holds the platen bracket on and the wheel. So that's it, guys. She's all done.